Good morning and welcome to our daily word this morning. Today is daily word number 764. So thank you for joining me as you always do for our time together and our conversation around scripture and its meaning for us and how we can find the things in it that speak to us and that help us today, tomorrow, and the next days to live as God would have us to and to be in better relationship with each other and with God. So I'm appreciative that you always join me and you carve out time to be with me and that you say good morning when you do join me, or good afternoon, or whatever day it is that you find the time to be with me. Just a reminder, tomorrow night is our next summer Wednesday night. We have a great evening planned, lots and lots of good food coming. And so you're going to want to join us. Even if you haven't RSVP'd, look, come anyway. It'll be fine. We'll have plenty of stuff. Bring a chair and we'll share our lives together and gather around food and conversation, the telling of story and a fire and all those things that are important. So I'm going today to hopefully buy a new fire pit and hopefully get it together between now and tomorrow night. So that's one of my challenges for today. So for today, I have chosen for our scripture Psalm 145, verses 8 through 9, and then verses 14 through 21. And we hear these words: The Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. The Lord is good to all, and his compassion is over all that he has made. The Lord upholds all those who are falling, and raises up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them food in their due season. You open your hand, satisfying the desire of every living thing. The Lord is just in all his ways, and kind in all his doings. The Lord is near to all who call him, to all who call on him in truth. He fulfills the desires of those who fear him. He also hears their cry and saves them. The Lord watches over all who love him, but all the wicked he will destroy. My mouth will speak the praises of the Lord, and all flesh will bless his holy name forever and ever. Some of these words in the middle of this psalm are words that I speak most often at the beginning of a funeral. And they're powerful, important words. The Lord is near to all who call on him. That we could know God's ways. So in the middle of those days when we're at a funeral, when grief is at its highest peak, when we're gathered to celebrate a life, when we're doing all that it is to hold ourselves together, it's important that we hear these words from the psalmist, because the psalmist gives us an idea who God is. And the psalmist lists all the things that God does for us. Is good to all, has compassion, upholds all who are fallen, raises up those who are bowed down, satisfies the desire of every living being, is near to us. The psalmist reminds us that in the midst of our lives, in the midst of the dog days of summer, in the midst of grief, sorrow, unknowns, fears, God finds us and meets us in these particular places. God's hand, the psalmist reminds us, is open and filled with everything that we need. It's interesting. I spoke about it Sunday and yesterday. We live in this culture, and in our days, because I'm not sure what it used to be called fierce individualism, and in this area, folks who are German, we're just called stubborn Germans. We pull ourselves up. We often think that we can provide our own way, and that we don't need to depend on others. But all of us know that we each have times when life knocks us off center. And we'll cry out in the search of the God who's promised to be with us when we're knocked off center. Two things, and it happens to all of us, you know. So now I'm in the throes of the death of my cousin and dealing with this extended family and hearing some of the stories of the extended family, and that threw me a little off center, not knowing some of the dynamics. And it's going to be an interesting challenge. And then I got a phone call yesterday, actually a FaceTime conversation with someone that threw me really, really, really off center. And I had a tough rest of the afternoon. And, for me, for all of us, that happens to us, right? And I found myself in the midst of just, what am I going to do? Kind of biting my tongue and, a fierce upper lip. When we are knocked off center, we cry out in the search of the God who has promised to be with us, as the psalmist reminds us. And God hears our cry and then lifts us up and sets us beside God, the psalmist says, whose hand then holds all that we need. And then once again, we're filled with God's love and forgiveness and presence and grace and mercy. Amazing gifts that are given to us. And then the psalmist, after all of that, when we've been knocked off center, when we're in the midst of all the things that happen to us in life, and then we cry out to the God who's promised to be with us, and God, from God's full hand, feeds us and gives us everything we need, and we're lifted in love and forgiveness and grace and mercy and peace. The psalmist says, "My mouth will speak the praise of the Lord, and all flesh will bless his holy name forever and ever." The psalmist says to us, look, that stuff's going to happen. We're reminded of it. The psalmist knows it well. But when God lifts us up and gives us what we need, we should join the psalmist in the praise of God. And that's really what we're called to. We don't just get through life alone. We need each other. We need to know that when we're knocked off center, we have someone else, some friends, neighbors, loved ones, lifting us up. And it's the God that we cry out to that also, importantly, if we recognize it, lifts us up and fills us with love and forgiveness and God's presence and grace and mercy. And, we just need to hear that and be reminded of it as it changes our lives and helps us focus anew. So that's the word for today. I hope it's a word that speaks to you in the midst of your life. If you've been knocked off center, as I have been, know that center comes back and that God meets us, right where we are. So just a reminder that after tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, after tomorrow, there will not be a daily word until Monday, August 14th. My vacation is going to start Thursday morning, and then I'll be at the lake a couple days and then home, and then we're leaving on Saturday for Gatlinburg, all 12 of us, and we're looking forward to a great time together and sharing our lives together as a family. And then I'll be back for Sunday morning and on the 13th, which will find us in the shelter. So thanks for joining me for our time together. Know of God's love that surrounds you. Know of my love for you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.